In the shadow of the early Christian church, a mystical movement emerged offering secret teachings, hidden rituals, and a radically different view of God, Jesus, and salvation. This was Valentinian Gnosticism, one of the most sophisticated and influential branches of Gnostic thought. But who was Valentinus? What did his followers believe? And why did the early church fight so hard to erase their teachings? In this video, we explore the origins, beliefs, and practices of the Valentinians, the Gnostic Christians who believed salvation came not through faith, but through secret knowledge. Who was Valentinus? Valentinus was an Egyptian-born Christian teacher who lived during the 2nd century CE. Educated in Alexandria, he was deeply familiar with Platonic philosophy, Jewish scriptures, and early Christian writings. According to early church sources, Valentinus nearly became Bishop of Rome, but his teachings were ultimately deemed heretical by orthodox leaders. He moved to Rome around 140 CE, where he founded a school and gained a large following. His ideas weren't created in isolation. They were part of a broader Gnostic current, but Valentinus crafted them into a sophisticated theological system rooted in Christian scripture, yet mystical in nature. At the heart of Valentinian thought is a radically different view of reality, one that divides the world into 3 levels. 1. The fullness. The highest realm is the pleroma, the fullness of divine being. It is inhabited by spiritual beings called eons, emanations of the ultimate, unknowable God. Among them is Sophia, or wisdom, whose fall from the pleroma triggers everything that follows. 2. The material world. The material world is not created by the true God, but by a lower, ignorant being called the demiurge, often associated with the God of the Old Testament. The demiurge creates matter, not out of evil, but out of ignorance and separation from the divine source. 3. The human soul. Within human beings is a divine spark, a fragment of the true God trapped in the material world. The mission of Christ, according to Valentinus, is not to die for sins, but to awaken the soul, to remind it of its divine origin and guide it back to the pleroma. This awakening is known as gnosis, or knowledge, not intellectual knowledge, but intuitive spiritual realization. Jesus and the Christ in Valentinian Gnosticism. To the Valentinians, Jesus was not simply a human Messiah. He was a manifestation of the divine Christ, who descended from the pleroma to awaken humanity. They believed Jesus had 2 natures, a heavenly Christ, an eon sent by the divine realm, and an earthly Jesus, the man who served as the vessel. Christ did not suffer physically on the cross in the same way traditional Christians believed. Instead, the crucifixion symbolized the liberation of the divine spark. Valentinian texts often reinterpreted Christian scripture allegorically, seeing parables and miracles as symbolic of inner transformation. Rituals and spiritual practice. Despite being labeled heretics, the Valentinians practiced many familiar Christian rituals, but with esoteric meanings. Baptism. They practiced a secret form of baptism, not just by water, but by spirit. It symbolized the awakening of the divine seed. Eucharist. They celebrated the Eucharist, but interpreted it as a mystical union with the higher Christ, not a memorial of physical death. Marriage rites. Some sources mention a bridal chamber ritual, a symbolic union of soul and spirit reflecting the reunion of fallen Sophia with the divine. Instruction. Valentinians were initiated gradually. Beginners received basic teachings, but only advanced members were given the deeper mysteries, the gnosis that led to salvation. They did not reject the material world entirely, but saw it as something to be transcended through understanding, not condemned. Valentinian schools and texts. Valentinus's school flourished in Rome and spread throughout the Mediterranean for over a century. It eventually divided into 2 main branches. The Eastern, more ascetic and symbolic. The Western, more open and integrated with local churches. Valentinian ideas are preserved in several surviving Gnostic texts, including the Gospel of Truth, possibly written by Valentinus himself, the Gospel of Philip, the Tripartite Tractate, and the Gospel of Mary, which, while not strictly Valentinian, aligns with their views. Many of these were rediscovered in 1945 in the Nag Hammadi Library, a cache of Gnostic scriptures buried in Egypt. Opposition and decline. The early church fathers, especially Irenaeus, Tertullian, and Hippolytus, condemned Valentinianism as heresy. They accused it of elitism, over-spiritualizing scripture, and corrupting the gospel message. Valentinian Christians were gradually excluded from church leadership and marginalized. By the 4th and 5th centuries, with the rise of imperial Christianity and the establishment of orthodoxy, their communities faded, driven underground or absorbed. Legacy and influence. Though persecuted and forgotten, Valentinian Gnosticism left a lasting imprint. It preserved a mystical, psychological, and symbolic approach to Christianity that echoes in mystical theology. Carl Jung's work on Gnosticism and archetypes, modern esoteric movements, and even some alternative Christian groups. Today, scholars see Valentinianism not as a fringe heresy, but as a serious contender in early Christian diversity, one that offered a path of inner awakening rather than external obedience. Its central message still resonates, that the divine is within, and awakening to that truth is the beginning of salvation. If you found this glimpse into Valentinian Gnosticism enlightening, subscribe for more explorations into ancient spirituality, lost scriptures, and mystical Christianity. Thank you for watching. Let us know what you think about this mysterious branch of early Christianity. Do you find their beliefs and practices intriguing or heretical? How do you interpret their rituals and symbolism? And do you see any connections between Valentinianism and modern spirituality or esoteric movements? Share your thoughts and insights in the comments below. Your engagement helps bring these fascinating topics to a wider audience. Also, if you haven't already, please take a moment to like this video. Your support means a lot and helps keep the mystical explorations coming. Thanks for watching. See you next time